Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to episode number 924 of NoDQ&AV video. Now just one away from 925 as the road to 1,000 episodes continues. Got your questions from twitter.com/AaronRift using the hashtag PAIV1 or road to NoDQ1000 depending on if you're a first time asker or not. Let's get down to your questions today. First one comes from AXH. Do you see Undertaker appearing at Fastlane to cost Roman Reigns the match versus Braun Strowman, setting their own matchup at WrestleMania? I have gotten a lot of questions about this, and while I feel that it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for Undertaker's character, Undertaker isn't really the guy that appears and interferes in other people's matches. He'll just show up face to face on a random Raw segment. I think that that would be more in line with what Undertaker's character would do. Now, with that being said, he did that in 2015 where he interfered in Brock Lesnar's match with Seth Rollins. I wasn't a fan of it. I was very vocal about that. I was very critical of Undertaker interfering in that fashion. I just felt it wasn't true to Undertaker's character. Now, it could happen on Sunday. I would not be surprised if Undertaker shows up. Will he actually cost Roman Reigns the match? That, I think, is unlikely. And the reason being that, first of all, it's not true to Undertaker's character. Second, the way WWE has been booking this feud with Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman, Strowman has been getting the best of Undertaker on multiple occasions, including this past week on Raw. Roman has been booked to look inferior to Strowman. So after all this, is WWE really going to have Reigns lose to Strowman at the pay-per-view? I'm not expecting it. If WWE is doing Roman Reigns versus Undertaker, which seems to be the plan, then I would expect Roman Reigns to come out of Fastlane looking very strong to set up a match with Undertaker. So I would be surprised if Undertaker showed up and actually costed Roman Reigns the match against Braun Strowman. Now, I could see Undertaker appearing after the match to confront Roman Reigns face to face, which would be more in line with what Undertaker's character would do. That I could see happening, or we could see Undertaker appearing on Raw the next night to confront Roman Reigns to set up a match at WrestleMania. Maybe we could see Undertaker helping Roman Reigns and then challenging Reigns for WrestleMania. That is also a possibility, but you would think that because of the fact that Undertaker got eliminated by Roman Reigns, that Undertaker at some point will show up and challenge Roman Reigns for WrestleMania. That definitely makes sense, but again, I'm not expecting to see Undertaker actually get involved and cost Roman Reigns the match. This one comes from Tyler Joseph Smith. How do you feel about the closing segment of SmackDown Live, and was this a double turn? I do not think it was a double turn. I think it was Randy Orton finally breaking away from Bray Wyatt and revealing to everyone that he was in fact working Wyatt the entire time. Bray Wyatt's character is supposed to be a heel. He manipulates people. Now, with that being said, a lot of people like the Bray Wyatt character, and he is a cult favorite, and because of that, I've seen some comments online. Some people actually felt sorry for Bray Wyatt's character, that his compound was destroyed by Randy Orton. There were some people sympathetic towards him, but I did not see it as Randy Orton going heel and Bray Wyatt going babyface, although it feels like that would work, you know, with Bray Wyatt being a sympathetic character and fans wanting to cheer for the character, and Randy Orton being vocal about preferring to be a heel. I think that could work, but based off of how the storyline has been done with these two and the nature of Bray Wyatt's character being a manipulator, I saw it as Randy Orton revealing that he was setting up Bray Wyatt and he wasn't going to fall for Wyatt's evil mind games. And as a manipulator, that's something that heel characters do. They manipulate people. So maybe at some point they will do a double turn. Who knows? I mean, if the fans continue to cheer for Bray Wyatt, that's always an option WWE could do. They could do a double turn and turn both characters. So I would not rule that out happening at some point. But as far as the segment goes, I mentioned on the No DQ live video, it was pretty over the top with the music and everything, but I did feel it was very well done, and that visual of Randy Orton doing his pose with the flames, it looked really cool, and it's already gotten over 1 million views on WWE's YouTube channel. It's getting some buzz. I will say that it was a well done segment, and it was creative. I give WWE credit for doing something creative. Was it influenced by the Broken Hardys? It very well could have been, but I will say it's a nice change of pace from what we've been seeing. And, you know, we saw those kind of segments with The Undertaker and Kane over the years, the supernatural element. I think it was a little overkill with the music and the various camera angles. But again, to me, that's just nitpicking. And I did enjoy the segment. I thought it was well done. This one comes from Calvin. How would you book the debut of Nakamura? Heel or face? SmackDown or Raw? And who or what should be his first feud? I would definitely have him as a babyface. I don't see any other option. He's very charismatic, and he's not really known for his promos. I think he would struggle as a heel, so I would definitely bring him in as a babyface. As far as which show goes, I think it depends on who you are going to put him against. I'd love to see AJ Styles versus Nakamura. I mean, that would be a great first feud, especially if AJ's going to stay a heel for the time being. I'd love to see Nakamura debut on SmackDown and feud with AJ and let the two of them have a big match on pay-per-view to really get Nakamura's WWE main roster career off to a high start. I think that would be a very solid direction for Nakamura if they debut him on SmackDown, put him against AJ and get him over with the fans by having him and AJ have a tremendous match on pay-per-view. That's what I would do with him, and that very well could end up happening. I mean, we just saw Nakamura feuding with Samoa Joe in NXT, and Joe's on Raw. It seems to make logical sense for Nakamura to go on SmackDown if Joe's going to be on Raw for the time being. This one comes from Sean T. Flick. What do you think of Kurt Angle feuding with Kevin Owens after WrestleMania? I like the idea, and I could see it happening at some point. If you look at a short list of potential Kurt Angle opponents in WWE, Kevin Owens would certainly be on that list. And I think Angle even mentioned Owens as a guy he would like to work with in WWE. If Kurt Angle ends up being the Raw GM, which is something that has been rumored, you could have a clash between Owens and Angle, a storyline where Owens is getting angry with Angle, and eventually that leads up to a match between the two of them, maybe at SummerSlam. That seems to be a natural storyline you could do and something that would make sense, and definitely Angle and Owens would be a match I would like to see at some point. I definitely see that as a possibility and a solid idea if Angle is going to do more than one match in WWE. This one comes from Anthony Hayes. Hey Aaron, if Seth Rollins cannot go at WrestleMania, would it make sense for Triple H and Finn Balor? The only problem with that is Seth Rollins and Finn Balor were not allies when Balor was around, when he was competing in WWE, and then he got hurt and was out of action after he was feuding with Seth Rollins. And Seth Rollins took the credit for putting Finn Balor out of action. That would not really make sense for Finn Balor to do something on behalf of Rollins. You would think that Balor would want to get revenge on Rollins, if anything. But it is an option to somehow work Finn Balor into the storyline and have him face Triple H at WrestleMania. That would be a huge match for Finn Balor to go head-to-head with Triple H at WrestleMania. But to me, I'd rather see Finn Balor versus Samoa Joe. I think that would make a lot more sense than Balor versus Triple H. Again, if Rollins is not doing a match at WrestleMania, I'd rather just see Triple H on the sidelines, but Triple H is in ring shape, he's ready to go, and I'm guessing they will put Triple H in a match. I'm sure WWE does have some sort of backup plan. I'm just hoping it's something that makes sense with the amount of time they have to prepare for Plan B. I hope they do come up with something that does make sense if Rollins is not going to wrestle. This one comes from @RavishingRaven. Can you see a pairing of Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe leading to a fallout in a main event down the road or even next year's WrestleMania? I like the idea. As I've talked about in previous videos, maybe WWE could do a new evolution with Triple H, Samoa Joe, and Kevin Owens, and then at some point you have Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe facing off at a WrestleMania. I definitely like the idea, but WWE isn't exactly known for doing the long-term booking. I think it would be a great way to establish both guys as top-level superstars, to have them associated with Triple H and both of them fighting to be Triple H's guy. I definitely like that idea, but I am not sure if that is something that WWE is going to do. I believe the three of them are scheduled to be teaming together at a live event or a series of live events in March. Maybe it will happen. You never know. Never say never. This one comes from Ali. Do you think that fans will turn on Brock and Goldberg as Universal Champion because they rarely show up on Raw and only do pay-per-views? I'm not sure, because I thought that if fans were going to turn on those guys, they would have done so at Survivor Series. But again, that Survivor Series was such a short match that fans really did not have the opportunity to turn on those guys. At WrestleMania, I mean, we all think back to WrestleMania 20 when the fans turned on Brock Lesnar and Goldberg. Today, I feel it's different. The circumstances are different. Brock Lesnar has gotten himself over with the fans despite only being a part-timer, and despite the UFC suspension, fans have still been cheering for Brock Lesnar, and Bill Goldberg has this legend status now. It's really a different environment than it was in 2004, and I think both of them have been forgiven by most of the WWE universe. I think the only way that we might see that happen, where the fans turn on those guys, is if they have a WrestleMania match that turns out to be a huge stinker, and I think that that would be them just not being able to deliver something that fans are expecting. Now, what are fans expecting at this point from those two? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if fans are expecting the two of them to have a 15-minute back and forth epic brawl that has the quality of John Cena versus AJ Styles. If fans are expecting something like that, then they're probably going to be sorely disappointed. But if fans are expecting something relatively short and just it being more about the personalities than the quality of the work, then I think they'll be all right. So time will tell what they do at WrestleMania, and if they can work around Goldberg's weaknesses and if they can pull it off. We'll see. They managed to get through Survivor Series in the Royal Rumble. We'll see what happens at Fastlane, and then we'll see if WWE can end the storyline on a high note. This one comes from The Cruise. Do you think that the UK title will be defended at NXT Orlando or even maybe at WrestleMania? I believe it is going to be defended at NXT TakeOver Orlando. I haven't heard any official word on it yet, but it would not surprise me at all. Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne are already making NXT appearances. One would think that the UK title will be a regular fixture on NXT TakeOver events, and as far as WrestleMania itself goes, I think that that is unlikely. I think it's unlikely the UK title will be defended at WrestleMania, because if it is defended, it'll probably be the pre-show match, and then it'll just hurt the credibility of the title and the prestige. So I think it would be best just to have it defended at the NXT shows and have the UK title part of the NXT brand for now. And if the title really catches on, then maybe at some point you can do it on a main roster WWE show. But for now, I would stick to having it be part of the NXT shows. This one comes from Boogeyman79. Hey Aaron, what Raw have you attended in Los Angeles that you think is the best and the worst? This is an easy one for me. The best Raw that I went to in Los Angeles was February 2003. It was actually not that noteworthy of a Raw, but it was what happened after Raw that was really memorable for me, and that was Steve Austin making his unannounced return, his first WWE live event appearance since he walked out on the company in, I believe, June of 2002. The place went completely unglued. A friend of mine who was there with me, he literally jumped out of his seat and almost fell into the row in front of us. That's how excited he was. And that's pretty much how everyone reacted when Steve Austin came out. And he stunned Val Venus when he was Chief Morley several times. It was just so much fun and so completely unexpected. You know, this past week's Raw, last week at Staples Center with The Rock appearing, that was another big moment to see The Rock appear, and that was a very memorable Raw for me. The worst Raw was in 2009. It was an impromptu Raw at Staples Center after the whole Denver Nuggets debacle, which forced WWE out of the Pepsi Center in Denver, and they had to rebook Raw at the Staples Center. The show was just really weak. They threw together this 10-man tag team match, the Lakers versus the Nuggets, with the baby faces wearing the Lakers gear and the heels wearing the Nuggets gear. It was so lame. And then Vince doing a parody of the Nuggets guy. I'm not sure his name off the top of my head. I'm not a sports guy. But I thought the whole thing was just really lame. It was basically, the show was built around WWE making fun of the Denver Nuggets, and I thought it was a pretty weak Raw. That Raw was infamous because it was the return of Mr. Kennedy, and then as it turned out, it was his last appearance in WWE. He ended up hurting Randy Orton. Randy Orton got pissed off, and then a few days later, Kennedy was released from WWE. That was his final appearance, his infamous final appearance. But beyond that, it was a very forgettable Raw. This one comes from Raw is LU. Since Finn Balor is booked for live events in March, will he most likely return at Fastlane? I would not rule it out. I mean, he's expected back at any time now. He's booked for several WWE live events in March, as I mentioned earlier. And I would expect him to be involved in a big match at WrestleMania, if not Triple H, as was suggested earlier. I would expect Finn Balor versus Samoa Joe. To me, that's a logical match for WrestleMania. Joe is going to need a big match. Balor is going to need a big match. Maybe we'll see a storyline where Joe just continues to beat up Sami Zayn after picking up a victory, and then Finn Balor comes to the aid. If not at Fastlane, I could see that happening on this week's Raw. I think it's imminent. I think we will see Finn Balor very soon, perhaps as soon as Fastlane. Got this one here from Tomas. What's the worst show or pay-per-view in wrestling history, not just WWE? Going back real quick to that other question, now that I think about it, I think Undertaker will also play a role in when Finn Balor returns. If Undertaker is booked for Fastlane, I don't think we'll see Finn Balor at Fastlane, because I think it's unlikely we'll see both guys return on the same show, because it'll take away the impact from the other person returning. I think we'll see Undertaker on one show and Balor on another show. It just depends on what show. Now, back to this other question. The worst pay-per-view show in history. I think the obvious choice is Heroes of Wrestling from 1999. I think somebody actually responded on Twitter with that, and I would agree. That was probably the single worst wrestling pay-per-view of all time from any promotion. It was just a disaster in every way. Just one bad match after another, bad commentary, a bunch of old guys that could barely do anything. Jake Roberts with his famous, or should I say infamous, blackjack promo. You want to play 21? I got 22. Even though 22 means you've busted. But, you know, Jake Roberts was not in his finest form at that show. As far as the worst, you know, just off the top of my head, I did a video of this, by the way, if you search it on my channel for the worst pay-per-views in wrestling history. Off the top of my head, the worst WCW pay-per-view, probably New Blood Rising in 2000, and take your pick of a lot of those 2000 WCW pay-per-views. Worst WWE pay-per-view, probably December to Dismember, of ones I can think off the top of my head that were generally considered to be major flops. Got this one here from Saucy Turtle Dustin. If WrestleMania is a brand that sells itself, shouldn't WWE use it to get people into new and current stars instead of focusing on the past? Absolutely. I mean, ideally that should be the ultimate goal, but you have to look at it from WWE's mentality. They want to get as many casual fans interested in WrestleMania as possible, and you know, by accomplishing that, you need to have the mainstream publicity. And guys like The Rock and Brock Lesnar, they are going to generate the most mainstream publicity for WrestleMania. But yeah, you would think that you use those guys to draw in people to WrestleMania, and then at WrestleMania, you have new stars shine at WrestleMania and get elevated, and then that leads to those casual fans tuning in, sticking around past WrestleMania. That should be the ultimate goal. But yeah, as far as marketing WrestleMania goes, WWE is going to use the part-timers because those guys can generate the headlines. But yeah, you would hope that eventually WWE will have guys that are big enough stars that you won't need those part-timers to draw in the casual fans to WrestleMania. And yes, WrestleMania is WrestleMania. It sells itself. With the WWE Network, you know, it's not like WWE really needs to draw in all these other people, but they still do it because they still want the new people signing up for the network, and they want the headlines. So until WWE has those next big mainstream superstars at the level of The Rock or Steve Austin, they're going to keep bringing in those old guys to generate mainstream interest in WrestleMania. That'll wrap it up for this edition of NoDQ&A Video. Thanks as always for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, please share it on Facebook or Twitter. Tell a friend about NoDQ&A Video. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the latest ongoing breaking news regarding Fastlane, as well as all the turmoil in TNA with everybody abandoning ship. NoDQ.com will have the very latest, and I will see you guys next time.